Talking to strangers can seem like a huge challenge, one that gives you butterflies in your stomach just thinking about it. Whether at a party, a meeting, or even in line at the supermarket, the feeling of discomfort when trying to strike up a conversation with someone you've never met is common. But the good news is that it's simpler than it seems. With a few tips and techniques, you can develop this skill and completely transform how you communicate. First things first, we need to bust a myth. Being good at talking to others isn't an exclusive gift of extroverts. You weren't born bad at social interactions, you just haven't had enough practice. And, honestly, that may not be entirely your fault. In today's world, we spend a lot of time behind screens, and it's only gotten worse with time. For example, not long ago, most people didn't have a smartphone until adulthood. Today, kids are getting phones before they even turn 10. And let's be honest, sending a friend request or a text message doesn't require much skill, does it? When we text, a lot of things that happen in a real conversation simply aren't there. You can't pick up on the person's body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, speaking speed, how close they stand to you, or the eye contact they make. All these are part of face-to-face interactions but are completely absent in text conversations. So, talking to someone face-to-face is almost like a different language. But what exactly can you do to change this situation? Overcome the fear of judgment. One of the biggest obstacles we face before even starting a conversation with a stranger is the fear of being judged. The truth is, most people are so focused on themselves, living their own lives, that they couldn't care less about what we're doing, what we're wearing, or what our style is. It's very common for us to overestimate how much attention others give to our lives. And if someone does judge you, if the conversation doesn't flow as you imagined, that's okay. Not every interaction is going to be perfect. You haven't lost anything, and you'll probably never see that person again in your life. That kind of person isn't someone you'd want around anyway. There's nothing worse than dealing with people who make you feel like you're always walking on eggshells. Over time, you'll notice that the fear of judgment fades, and you'll be able to express yourself more freely. The key is to keep trying. Smile. Alright, you've managed to overcome the first barrier of being judged. But how do you actually start an interaction with someone? Who should you talk to? A good rule to follow is to start conversations with people who are nearby and either have a wandering gaze or have made eye contact with you, even if only for a brief moment. Distance matters because, ideally, this person should be close enough that you can have a conversation without raising your voice, keeping things natural and a bit more personal. Bank lines, elevators, people sitting near you on public transport, etc., are good examples of interesting situations. As for eye contact, it's a form of communication in itself. People who are focused on a task, like working on a computer or reading a book on public transport, are engaged in those activities and might not be interested in diverting their attention. Someone who has made eye contact with you has noticed your presence and is probably more open and receptive to your approach. Great, you've chosen your target. Now, one of the simplest ways to start a conversation with a stranger is through small gestures, like a smile. It might seem trivial, but smiling already breaks the ice and creates a friendly atmosphere. A Harvard University study proved that simple gestures like smiling or giving a compliment increase the likelihood that the other person will feel comfortable and want to continue the conversation. You can also break the ice by making an obvious observation. Look around for something so obvious that the person will definitely agree with you. For example, if you're on a subway on a hot day, you might say something like, "It's so hot outside, I don't even know if I want to leave this train car." The person will probably agree with you, and might even make a comment that gives you a chance to learn more about them, like, "Yeah, good thing I still have a long way to my stop." From there, you can ask where they're from or something similar. And just like that, you have a conversation happening. It's important to note that the person you approach will usually match their energy to the energy you give off, so try to start the conversation with positive energy. After all, what's the point of starting a negative conversation? Nobody wins, everybody loses. So, next time you're in a social setting or even just walking down the street, try making eye contact with someone and smiling. Believe me, that simple gesture can be enough to start a light, pressure-free interaction. Talk less, listen more. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation with someone who only talks about themselves? Or someone who thinks they know everything about everything? It was probably a bit of a boring experience, right? Don't be that person. Deep down, we all want to be heard. And here's the first big secret to a great conversation: listening. Not just listening while waiting for your turn to speak, but really paying attention to what the other person is saying. When you truly listen, you make the other person feel valued, and that creates an instant connection. Studies show that people who listen actively are seen as more charismatic and trustworthy. Moreover, good listeners often become natural leaders because they genuinely pay attention to what others have to say. Active listening is easy to apply. For example, maintain eye contact, ask questions about what the person is saying to encourage them to dive deeper into the topic, and avoid distractions like looking at your phone. A simple, "Tell me more about that," can work wonders in a conversation, showing that you're genuinely interested in creating a smooth, engaging dialogue. You need to be genuinely interested in what's being said, or the person you're talking to will sense your disinterest through your body language and won't feel comfortable continuing the conversation. Everyone enjoys talking about topics they're interested in, especially to people who show the same interest. Ask open-ended questions. So, you've already shared a smile and maybe exchanged a few words. Now it's time to keep the conversation flowing. Here's the next secret: ask open-ended questions. Unlike closed questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, open-ended questions encourage more elaborate responses, which keeps the interaction going. For example, instead of asking, "Did you like the party?" try something like, "What brought you here today?" Or, "If you had to rate the best thing about this party, what would it be?" These questions invite the person to share more about themselves and their interests, while also showing that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. The more information you gather about this person, the easier it becomes to keep the conversation going. It's like a snowball effect. Tell stories, not facts. If you want people to remember you after a conversation, here's a golden tip: incorporate stories into your dialogue. The human brain is wired to love stories. Since ancient times, even before writing, we passed on knowledge and teachings through storytelling. Stories stir our emotions, make us remember, and most importantly, help us connect. When you're talking to someone, instead of just listing facts, try telling a story. It can be something simple, like sharing a funny moment that happened at work or talking about an unusual situation you witnessed. Bringing stories into a conversation makes it much more interesting and engaging. And most importantly, people will remember you. Think about the times when someone told you a funny or emotional story. You probably still remember what they said, even if it was weeks or months ago. That's because stories create an emotional impact. And listen, you don't have to be a master storyteller who has everyone rolling with laughter or tears. Just by adding a bit of context and emotion, the conversation comes to life. Let's say you're talking about a trip you took. Instead of saying, "Oh, I went to this city, and it was really beautiful," you can tell a story about what happened there. "Man, when I got there, I thought it was going to be super hot, right? But guess what? On the first day, it started pouring rain, and I didn't have an umbrella. I had to take shelter in a cafe, and that's where I met this amazing person who ended up showing me the best spots in the city." See the difference? A simple detail completely changes how your experience is shared. Practice is the key. The more, the better. And finally, the most important secret: practice. The more you put yourself in situations where you need to talk to strangers, the more comfortable you'll become. Don't wait for special occasions, like big social events, to practice. Take advantage of everyday situations, like casual chats with the cashier at the supermarket or greeting someone in the elevator. Each interaction is an opportunity to improve, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. It's like learning any other skill. Constant training will make you more confident and prepared. Communication is one of the most powerful tools we have to create connections. With these tips in mind, you'll be ready to turn trivial conversations into meaningful interactions. If you're committed to your personal development and want to keep evolving and leveling up, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here, I always bring practical and powerful content to help you keep growing. And if this video helped you in any way, make sure to leave a like so that more people can be impacted as well. In the description, you'll find links to books that I've carefully selected, works that can completely transform the way you think and act. It's definitely worth checking out. And don't leave just yet. Take a look at the suggested videos here on the screen. They will help you even more on your personal development journey. See you there.